I want to talk to you about a hard topic for those who are grieving someone who was hard to love. Maybe you've lost a mother or a father or a sibling or someone who the rest of the world would not view as being kind, or maybe would not even view as being worthy to be grieved. But that person meant something to you. That person had a connection to you. That person was part of your life. Maybe they're the very reason that you're alive today. Maybe they helped you at a time in your life, and then as you got older, they turned against you. Or maybe they made your childhood years rough, tough, traumatic, and now they're gone. And maybe they're gone through natural causes, maybe they're gone through acts of violence, or maybe they're gone because of a medical illness or some unforeseen thing has taken place to take their life. And so now you are left grieving. And most people don't understand your grief because they see the person as someone who was hard to love. Maybe somebody might even say they were impossible or weren't worthy of love. But you are living with a divided heart. There's a part of you that does miss that person because of what they did positively in your life before they made a mistake or before they changed. Or maybe you just are grieving them because they are tied to you by blood, by DNA, by birthright. And you grieve them because they're tied to you, but you're not sure how to feel because you don't have a lot of memories with them, or positive memories, or even time. Maybe they're the parent that helped give birth to you, but they left and abandoned you. And now they're gone and you haven't had time to ask questions or get answers. And you feel cheated once again. Cheated the first time when they left and cheated the second time when they died. And so there are people who are dealing with grief, and it's hard to figure out, do I feel sad? Do I feel angry? Do I feel stuck? Do I feel like, well, I shouldn't care at all, but I keep caring, I keep wondering, I keep thinking about this? And so there are many of us out there who are grieving someone who was hard to love. And so we're going to talk about how to have an unwavering love, how to make a decision about what this grief looks like for you when others around you don't share the same feeling, when others around you did not come to the funeral, did not come to the memorial, and are not supportive because they feel like this person either didn't deserve it, or they don't know about them because the person had abandoned them or disappeared from the family for so long. There's nothing to be said. People are having a hard time thinking of what to say about the person, especially when it comes to loss, because people feel the need to say something positive about the person who's passed. But sometimes they don't have it. They don't have the positive words. So what do? We can start by making a decision that no one is perfect, that no one is perfect but God. And starting by looking at that statement and making that decision can help give you a starting point for now sorting out your feelings about this person and this loss in your life. When we recognize and validate that anyone could be guilty of doing bad things, of not being responsible, of not being who they were supposed to be, fulfilling their role or their obligation to the people in their life, when they realize that even though you are doing all the right things, as hard as it may be for you sometimes, but that there are moments that you could have made a mistake. There are moments that you could have disappointed somebody. There are moments that you were not perfect. When we come to that realization, it allows us to humble ourselves just enough to be able to take in information that's hard, to be able to empathize with a human being that we may be very different from. But when we're able to put aside our ego, put aside what we think is right or wrong and just see human to human and show empathy and show compassion, then that gives us room to be able to sort through sometimes mixed emotions and sometimes emotions that feel like a betrayal. If I feel compassionate for this person, I might be betraying my family who's so angry at this person. If I am understanding, I might be betraying the people that this person is hurt. So it helps us to not feel as if we're betraying by choosing to look at someone from the eyes of compassion, from the eyes of humanity, and just seeing them as imperfect beings. And then once you started to kind of wrestle with that idea, one of the things you could do is then say, okay, what did this person mean to me? Because everyone has a value, everyone has a purpose in this life. And we may not always see that when we're looking at them through the eyes of hurt and disappointment, through the eyes of the past, through the eyes of things that we feel we should have gotten that we didn't get. And if we're living in that regret, we're living with all of that unforgiveness, all of that bitterness, it's hard to see someone's value when you're seeing how much you're angry with them, how much they didn't do, how much value they took away from your life or the life of other people that you cared about in order for them to do whatever it is that they did. And so recognizing that everyone has a purpose or a value helps you get to that next step of now seeing them as they were a part of your life. They had something that they brought to it. Now trying to figure out what is it. Not only all of the bad or the difficulty stuff, but what was the good stuff? What was something useful that they did, that they added, that made their life worthy of grieving, that made their life worthy of giving acknowledgement to. And so that is the next step. Because once we realize their humanity, once we realize that they have meaning to us, and now figuring out what that meaning means, now we can begin to say what we lost when they're gone, but also to see what purpose they upheld during their life. And that might be the only positive attribute that you have for them, but it gives you a starting point. It gives you a starting point to sort out your feelings about that person. So an example of this could be a parent that had abandoned you and that you never got to know. But they still had purpose. They had value. And maybe their purpose was bringing you into the world, being part of you being born. Maybe their value is that although they weren't there for you, they added you as the value. That you being born was the value contributed to your family line, to your community, to your friends, to all the people that love you. The only reason that those people that love you have you in their life is because this person was a part of bringing you into the world. And if that's the only value that they added, well, that's pretty significant because we're glad that you're here. Your family, your friends, those who love you are extremely glad that you're a part of their life and their memory and their not only past, but present and future. And so this person that was hard to love, maybe the only right thing they did in their life was to bring you into the world, was to be part of your DNA. And maybe that there's some trait that's positive in them that you also have. And so that gives their life value. That gives their life purpose. And it also added to your life's purpose and your life's value. There are some of you out there who are grieving the loss of a loved one who may have committed a crime. And that crime caused other people that you know or people that you don't know, to be hurt. And your loved one, when you knew them, they never did anything to harm you, but now you're hearing stories about how they harmed other people, or you've lived through a trial, or you've lived through experiencing the pain that they brought to other people, and maybe their crimes landed them in prison, and either they passed away in prison or they passed away when they got out of prison. But now you are grieving the loss of them in their life, but you feel like your grief is a forbidden grief. It's an unspoken grief because you're sad that they're gone, but there are many people who don't have that same empathy or feeling towards them because of the crime that they committed. But you do still have a right to grieve. Even though this person was not who you knew with other people, in your life they might have shown you kindness. In your life they might have been the best version of themselves. There are people that struggle with two sides of who they are. They struggle with the person they want to be and what they feel they want others to see them, the best of who they believe that they are. And they struggle with the person that they've become, and that's the person that gives into an addiction or gives into a state of being or a way of life that causes other people pain. Maybe they give in to their anger and they cause violence, but maybe that violence wasn't experienced by you, and you saw them for who they wanted to be, but other people saw them for the other side of who they were and the things that they gave into at that time. Maybe you saw them after they had changed. Maybe they were a step-parent that came into your life, and with their biological children, the biological children have a hard time with them, but you, as their stepchild, saw them in a different phase and a different time of their life when they had changed. But because of the damage that they've already done way before you got there, that's what they're known for rather than the relationship that you had with them. And despite what they've done in the past, or despite what they might have had other people experience, you still have an affection towards them. You still love them, miss them, because of how you knew them. You knew them for the best side of who they were, not for the worst. And I just want to tell you that you have a right to grieve. And like we said in the beginning, that to realize that no one is perfect, to figure out what they meant to you. And you may not be able to share your grief with other people in your family because maybe they feel differently. But you can always still highlight what they meant to you, still remember them for the good that they did in your life. But you also, in order to be able to reconcile who they were to you versus who they were to others, it will require you forgiving them for who they weren't, right? Forgive them for what they might have done to cause pain to others, what they've done to cause pain to you, in that you're not even allowed to grieve because of the choices and decisions they made have left other people impacted negatively. And so this type of relationship is going to require forgiving, and forgiving someone who's unable to make amends, who's unable to defend themselves because they're no longer here. And so the forgiving that you're doing is really helping you to incorporate and reconcile how you feel about them and your experiences with them versus how they were to others. Forgiving them for all the times that they didn't measure up, for the times that they gave in to the worst side of themselves rather than the best side of themselves. Forgiving them for their choices that have left you carrying a scar that you did not create. This process will be part of helping you to reconcile the fact that you need to grieve and to make meaning of this experience, but it's difficult because of the life that they led or because of the things that they did. And in this particular case, and with all of you who are listening, it's going to be important when you're dealing with someone who, the loss of someone who was hard to love, who caused pain to others, to enter into counseling, to get help, to do some of this reconciliation that we've talked about. And one important step is to remember that as you grieve the loved one who was hard to love, to celebrate who you are as a result. Because you may have had a difficult parent, a difficult sibling, and you loved them, but they were difficult and they caused you some pain, and you're trying to grieve the part that you loved, and you're trying to forgive the part that you didn't love. But also there's something about you that makes you special, right? If the person that it's hard to love that you're grieving is a parent that brought you into this world, celebrate who you are. Because sometimes the person doesn't get to live out who they wanted to be. They don't get to make amends or be the best version of themselves, but you are the best version of them. You are carrying on something that they were unable to do. So celebrate who you are as a result of the experiences that you've had with this person. Maybe this person's ways have taught you to be someone so vastly different, but it's made you a better human being and a better citizen of your society. It's made you a better family member. It's made you a better sibling. As a result of some of these experiences, you've made some choices that redefine your family name, that redefine your relationships because of what you saw, what you learned, and because of your desire to make this world better for somebody else. So remember that ugly and broken vessels can still carry water. They may have to carry the water differently, but they can still carry water that can be life-giving, that can be helpful, that can bring beauty into the world, even if they themselves were not part of adding to the beauty. Even if that ugly or broken vessel caused someone pain, caused someone discomfort, the water that it carried also helped to beautify, to bring life to sustain someone or something else. And your loved one, if they were a parent, may have been what some people considered an ugly vessel because of their behavior, their ways, their attitudes, their choices. They may have been considered a broken vessel because maybe they struggled with mental illness. Maybe they struggled with an addiction or a behavior that hurt other people out of their own brokenness. But if what they came to do and what the best part of who they were is you, then they have carried water. They have carried you, who are now being of benefit, of purpose,